I have the great pleasure now to introduce to you our president for the last 2 years, who wants to say a few words on what has gone on for the last couple of years in our union. I'd like to introduce President Lois Wales.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see some new faces and a lot of old friends. And I am so proud to be your president today. What a couple of years. In the fall of 2009, the global economy had tanked. Governments around the world were making plans to fight deficits on the backs of their public sectors, and the feud between our union and Canada's main labour body looked bleak. Every leader has to face their own challenges, and it's how we deal with them that defines our leadership. So today I want to share with you what I see as probably the biggest challenge over the next couple of years. But most of all, I want to talk about how we've tackled it head on. And when I say we, I mean our MGEU team. That's members like you who are here today and have chosen to become active in your union and help chart its course. And the professional staff who work beside us to get the job done. Today, I think representing our members is more complex than ever before. We live in a more complex world. Without question, sitting down at the bargaining table and hammering out that agreement remains our most important tool. In the last 2 years, several groups took successful strike votes. Westman Lab, Knoll Centre, and several technical professional locals. And we made some groundbreaking gains, including equivalent full-time positions for home care and a standardization plan to bring rural EMS wages in line with their Winnipeg counterparts. Our bargaining teams all worked very hard to get the best deals possible, whether they represented 15 members or 15,000 members. And we've worked hard to ensure employers live up to their end of the deal. We've continued to put resources into steward training, including a great new set of educational videos that you will see over the next few days. We've continued to invest in province-wide servicing reps and the resource center. And we've won some big grievances. Like civil servants should not have to take vacation time to get a doctor-ordered blood test, and now they don't have to. Or unbelievably, we had to fight the government over the 2% long service step we negotiated. After the fact, they came up with the ridiculous notion that even if you had sat at the same desk for 25 years, doing the same job for 25 years, but your employer had changed, that you were not eligible for this increase. Shame on them. In response to our legal department, not only filed a grievance, but you members took aim. You emailed the Premier until he really didn't know what had hit him. It took a while, but thanks to you, the government backed down earlier this month, and they did the right thing. Because really, business as usual is no longer enough. Negotiating, strike votes, grievances, that's what we do best. But it can't end there. I've been involved in this union since my children were preschoolers, and I figured I knew a few things, and I did. But if there's one thing that I've learned coming into the MGEU office every single day, it's that nothing is simple anymore. And that's okay. Together, we're figuring out new approaches as we go along. Together, we've begun tackling complex challenges in 3 key ways. And I want to give you some examples of each of these 3 so you can better visualize what I'm talking about. Because these are ways of working that I think will be critical for us and the MGEU over the next few years. So number 1, working creatively and strategically as a team to tackle member issues. Let's take corrections for an example. Like the civil service, their bargaining committee faced profoundly difficult round of bargaining with our so-called friendly government. The fall I took office, the corrections component held an impromptu rally at the remand center and ended up in the long, drawn-out process of arbitration. No one's first choice. It has been tough on everyone, but the story does not have to end there, and it didn't. That February, we worked with members to organize the first Justice Summit in cooperation with Manitoba Justice. Active members working in sheriff services, probation, clerks of the court, and corrections were able to share their concerns and make recommendations for improvement in areas ranging from system efficiency to information sharing and to workplace safety. Then later that year, the Justice Minister Swan met with several of our frontline members to discuss the summary and recommendations to come out of the summit. So I guess there's no more problems in justice. Well, not exactly. But it was a good first step in preventing the kind of top-down policymaking that can haunt our members day in and day out. It led to things like the Adult Corrections Capacity Review held earlier this year. And together with several of our active corrections members, I had the chance to talk about our members' dire concerns about overcrowding in Manitoba jails. This got the attention of several media outlets, and the story of overcrowding became headline news. We got out the message that if overcapacity was an issue before federal changes, then their legislation is going to burst the dam. Of course, opportunities like this don't solve all our problems just like that, but they are part of a meaningful process where our members' voices are heard, and that can lead to real and lasting change. Then there's our EMS members, are another good example. While bargaining continued, we also worked on a number of other fronts to address concerns critical to the field. We worked with our rural and city paramedics to form a new component that would address issues like self-regulation and the need for a provincial EMS review. This summer, I was proud to take part with many of our members in this review and to bring some media awareness to the issues. Need a little water. We actually just heard that MGEU will be receiving the 2012 EMS Excellence Award from the Paramedic Association of Manitoba for its public relations work on behalf of all EMS professionals. Outside recognition is nice, but it's really the results that matter. And I think it's fair to say that we've had enough success that two new components have formed: the community agencies component and the diagnostic services component, hoping to pursue similar issue-based efforts. You may also have noticed we've been in the news lately with our child and family service members and launching legal battles against the very media who are covering the story. But the resources we put into being there for our CFS members are what part of a union is all about. Yes, it's our job to defend our members, and we're doing that. And it's also about speaking up for the entire profession, for what's right, especially when the point you're trying to make inspires debate. For if we don't help our members give voice to their concerns, if we don't help them explain why and how they do what they do, we're letting our members down. Our frontline social workers of all people know that putting their faces on television will not help them do a better job protecting our most vulnerable. And they have definite ideas about what might. So we've been fighting to help explain to Manitobans what our members cannot say for themselves. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Métis Child and Family Service Workers recently decided to join our union. Welcome. And some other examples. When the government announced the introduction of express liquor stores, we pushed to make sure they would be staffed by MGEU members. And we're continuing to keep up the pressure to hold a referendum on liquor privatization, because we think the results would be positive for our members and all Manitobans. And when the government began talking about closing the Manitoba Developmental Centre, we immediately took a lead. We met with our members, families of clients, politicians, to explore how to save jobs and ensure the centre would continue to provide vital services. As a result, I am happy to say today that MDC is still alive and well. In fact, we've just filed a grievance arguing that all term positions that have been filled for 2 years or more should be converted to permanent status. Equivalent full-time positions for community support is another example. It does turn out that negotiating this was just the tip of the iceberg. So MGEU activists, home care activists, and staff have been working with the employer for months, trying to come up with an EFT system that meets the needs of our members and their clients. And this is no small task. At times, members have struggled with giving up workplace flexibility for career security. But in the end, these workers will no longer be casual employees who don't even qualify for a bank loan. Or when the government announced that they were amalgamating health authorities, we immediately met with activists to talk strategy. Now, the timing was awful with healthcare support bargaining just getting rolling. But together we made a tough decision. The stakes for our union were too high to put off triggering votes. Better to delay negotiations, which would have been compromised by the reality of the votes coming anyway, and to forge ahead for fighting for our members. Together, we decided that's the strategic thing to do, and so far, I think we've begun to see dividends. We're presenting ourselves as the best of both worlds. We're the biggest, so we can offer the best representation for the lowest cost, and people are responding. We don't know for sure until all the votes are counted, but our people, both activists and staff, have been working tirelessly and creatively. And I'd like to call your attention to the screen. There we go. This is a picture of the bus wrap. They call this the blueberries. And if we can't get into the workplaces, we're going to the workplaces in those. And it's been a great success. And I'd like to give all those here today from the components, Tech Prof and Healthcare Support, a special round of applause for their hard work. In the last couple of years, we've had to get creative in all kinds of ways in hoping to grab the attention of Manitobans and tell our members' stories. Do you remember last fall before the provincial election when Gord Steeves was trying to tell Manitobans that we did not need public insurance anymore? Our MPI activists and communications department did not take that lying down. They got together, did their homework, and shot back with a unique web campaign called Better Coverage for Less. It was quick, cost-effective, and made sure that Manitobans didn't start taking a good thing for granted. Our technical professional paramedical activists also worked with our creative staff to produce an award-winning television commercial. Activists were right on set to ensure an accurate portrayal of their professions, while our creative types made sure the message hit home. Or take our Civil Service Bargaining Committee. They didn't just work with our creative team to produce a series of their own award-winning TV ads called Your Province, Your Services. They also work to identify dozens of their co-workers to be featured in weekly web profiles. Each week, a different civil service job was showcased in an effort to remind Manitobans and even our own membership of just how critical and varied our provincial civil service really is. This brings me to the second thing I want to touch on, which is doing whatever we can, and when I mean whatever, to foster two-way communication with our members. Because this round of civil service bargaining was excruciating. It was really tough. It really hit home for me how important it is to be able to talk to our members even though they're probably less engaged than ever. Our Civil Service Bargaining Committee worked tirelessly. They did everything they could to fight those zeros. But in the end, they knew two things. One, a strong strike vote was highly unlikely, and two, an arbitration decision could very easily result in less than they had achieved at the table. In other words, they had very little choice. Most of the other provincial unions across Canada were fighting just to keep their members' jobs, while our deal had some good things in it. Except there were, of course, those damn zeros, and we had a problem. Many members couldn't understand why we might recommend such a deal. So we had to pull together and find ways to talk to as many of 15,000 plus members as possible. We emailed questions and answer sheets. We snail-mailed question and answer sheets. We scheduled meetings. Activists and staff went on the road for weeks and met with hundreds of members in their communities. And we tried something new. We contracted with an innovative company to hold a telephone town hall, a live question and answer period over the phone. Over 2,000 civil service members stayed on the line when we called and asked questions of their bargaining committee. I don't think anything can replace face-to-face contact, but we can't stop there anymore. When you talk to our younger members, they simply don't understand why a meeting is the only way to have input. And we've got to start really listening to our members about how they want to be engaged. Because it's not just us. All organizations are struggling with this. The truth is that trust in large organizations of any kind, corporations, governments, charities, and unions, is at an all-time low. So it's essential that we remain connected and ready to explain ourselves and the choices we make on members' behalves. That's why one of the first things I did was meet with area and component directors to establish a to-do list of priorities based on feedback from the members they represent. This gave us a base to organize around. Like if we knew safety and health was a pressing issue for our sheriff's officers, let's bring them together and make a plan. So we did. And this also allowed us to anticipate some things that might be coming our way too. As soon as the government announced the merger between liquor and lotteries, we met with our Gaulico and lotteries members and created a way to ease the transition for them. Almost right away, staff, activists, and our communications team set up a way for members to ask questions about the merger on our website, so we could talk to the employer and post their answers on the website. Along with regular meetings, it was a new and quick way to keep in touch with this relatively young membership, many of whom have made it very clear they ain't coming to a meeting. But based on the success of some of these initiatives, we hired a new social media officer to keep ideas coming. Russ helps me tweet important or interesting info on a regular basis. And with regular issue-based interviews on MGEU TV, I'm working to keep the dialogue going with anyone who visits our website. And of course, we created a Facebook page, which is just another way to keep up the exchange between the union leadership and the membership. When we launched the MGEU page, We did it in conjunction with our national union's campaign to bring mental health issues to the forefront of public debate. Because as we know, so many of the jobs that our members do, whether it's housing, home care, corrections, social services, are affected by how our governments deal with the mental health of Canadians. So when we launched the page to garner attention on this issue of real relevance to a huge number of our members. And today I'm happy to say that we have reached 1,000 likes. Which brings me to number 3. Our union does not exist in a vacuum. Our members' jobs are part of a larger system. And for those of us who are elected or hired to lead, we have to be effective. We must bring the big picture of the job to our members. For instance, when we had to figure out what the hell to do with the Canadian Labour Congress and their unwillingness to deal with the rating issue. So we had to work with our national president, James Clancy, and we took a stand. And it wasn't often very pleasant. But sometimes doing the right thing actually works. And after 6 years of dispute, the CLC has changed their constitution so that rating now has consequences. We worked hard for this, we won this, and I'm so proud to say that we're back in the CLC paying dues in the whole House of Labour. Being a Labour leader means standing rooted with your members in their workplaces and in their communities while keeping an eye on the big picture. That's why I've toured over 30 different MGEU work sites over the last 2 years, meeting with MGEU members of all stripes and all different sectors. That's also why I've taken an active role in the Manitoba Federation of Labour's campaign to reach out to Labour activists throughout the province. I've joined with the other MFL table officers to tour the province, meet with each other's activists, and talk about how we as unions can work together for the common good of working Manitobans. It's also why we've committed ourselves to fully participate in NUPSH's Champions for Change. Now, Champions for Change is not the day-to-day stuff for our members. It's a national lobby effort, but its goals, which are fair taxation and secure pensions for all, affect each and every one of them personally and directly in the long run. Now, I know what you're thinking. You can barely get your members out to a local meeting. Are any of them going to jump up and say, pick me, I'm going to try and win the heart and souls of Canadians? Probably not. But as activists and leaders, it's our job to have that vision and to do what we can to shape the future, not just react to it. The big picture is also why we established the Lake Winnipeg Scholarship. Because if organizations like us don't stand up and say enough is enough, we need to think about the kind of world we want. And if not us, then who will? That's why we introduced the new Peters Olfert Scholarship for studies related to public policy. It's why we continue to try and organize new groups and reach out to our growing Aboriginal workforce. The Springfield firefighters, Winnipeg Regional Health Authority interpreters, Riverwood Square Seniors Housing, all have signed first agreements this year and have brought new energy and purpose to our union. I'd like you to thank them. We need to be seen as leaders with vision. Last spring, the Occupy movement showed us something important. Many of our young people are passionate about the kind of world they don't want. They don't want a dog-eat-dog, fend for yourself, screw the little guy kind of world. Maybe they aren't quite clear about what they do want. This global generation may be a little cynical already. They're ridiculously media savvy, yet also disengaged. They think they've heard it all before. And my daughters remind me of that all the time. If we as a union are to stay relevant, we need to prove ourselves again to the next generation. It's time for organizations like MGEU to step up to the plate. Want to turn values into action? Then look no further. Care to revitalize the phrase public good? We have some people you want to meet. When we talked about what kind of video we might want to kick off convention, or what might make a good keynote speaker, the time seemed right to talk about values. Values and what that means to a civil society. It's our hope that the video you're about to see will talk about MGEU values in a fresh way, and we hope they'll hit home for you and help you articulate what we all stand for is so essential, and why it just makes sense. Who knows, maybe they'll go viral. Tell your coworkers about them. Tell your friends. Tell your neighbors. Tell your family. And you Facebookers out there, I dare you to get more likes than anybody else. So really, in a nutshell, complex challenges, ripe opportunities. Does it sound easy? Not a chance. But I believe this union has the strength and the talent and the vision to make it happen, especially if we never lose sight of what we stand for. And let's, more than anything else, have some fun while we're getting the job done. Thank you very much.